Hey guys, Deathwampa here. Today I'm going to be making a beginner Smite video. This video is just going to go over a couple things that I think beginners should know when first starting the game that are going to help improve their gameplay. These tips are going to help improve your gameplay, make the game easier, and hopefully more fun for you to play. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get into game real quick to show you guys the first one. I'm going to go to training, and I'm going to go to jungle practice. Jungle practice is a very useful resource when it comes to this game. It allows you to pick any god that you want to play and try them out. We're going to start with a beginner god that you get, that the game automatically gives you. If I can find her. There she is, Neith. We're going to play Neith. And I'm just going to go over some quick things that can help you be better at playing Smite. And again, hopefully, the better you are, hopefully the more fun you'll have. So, the first thing that I want to go over is I want to go to settings, and I want to go to targeting. Alright, so when you first start the game, targeting is on none. Both of these are on none, like this. When you first enter settings and you first create your account, these are set to none. Alright, so why is this so important? Well, as you can see here, there's nothing. There's just me. There's a little targeter up there, as you can see, all the way in the distance. A little X on the screen that shows you kind of where you're pointing. Alright? But it's just this. I'm going to get an ability real quick. And then here's your ability. Right? And it kind of gives you a box on where your ability is going to go. Well, the reason why I brought you to settings was, if you go to settings and you go over to targeting, you can currently, distance line and ground targeting are on none, which means you don't see anything when you use these abilities, really, or when you're auto attacking or whatever. Like, there's nothing here. But if you go to settings and go to targeting, if you go to distance line, you can actually add a line in game that allows you to see that? See how far your auto attacks shoot. That's the distance that your auto attacks shoot. The reason why this is so useful is because in game it can sometimes, without this, I'm going to remove it real quick. Without this, it can be hard to tell how far you can shoot. Now granted, these little red thing that highlights the enemy god tells you if you're in range, but still, if you're in the middle of a fight, you don't always pay attention to that. So it can be really hard to tell, like if I'm fighting other people and I'm using my abilities and things like that, you know, like this, I'm doing stuff, like I'm not always paying attention to that little red light up thing around the god. So what you can do is you can come to settings and go to targeting, and you can add a line, which makes a line that shows you how far you can shoot. As you can see, it shows you how far your arrows shoot. Or you can even add a ruler. Now what this does is it shows you in-game, kind of the meters in-game, so like 30 in-game meters, you know, 50 in-game meters, 70 in-game meters, things like that. And then that little line right around the 55 that you see, that extra line, is what shows you if you're in auto attack range. You see that? That little line right there? So these can be very useful tools that you can kind of gauge how far away people are using this ruler. If you don't like the ruler setting, I prefer to use the line right here is what I prefer. This is what I use to this day. It helps me be able to aim, be able to see how far away people are compared to my auto attacks, if I'm going to be able to hit them or not, if they're within range. This is a very useful tool, and this is something that you don't automatically start off with when you first enter the game. You have to go to settings, you have to go to targeting, you have to add this. I also use arrow ground targeting. Um, it kind of shows you, see that arrow right there? That's now when I lean out and when I lean in, it kind of shows you the mid spot of where you're aiming with your mouse. The reason why this is useful is because for abilities, like let's use this ability, it shows you right the midpoint, right where you're aiming. So say this enemy god is moving. Actually, let's go over here real quick. Let's go to this raw bot because he actually moves. So we're gonna come over here. We're gonna hit him with an auto attack. He's gonna come forward. All right, see how he's moving? If I didn't have this, it might be hard to hit him with my ability. But since I have this little targeter, I can place the midpoint right on him like that and activate it. And even if he's moving, he's not going to be able to get out in time because I have it directly on him. See how that works? That little targeter? I'm going to backflip on out of here so I don't die. Be kind of humiliating dying to a raw bot in jungle practice. But these both are very useful, especially for beginners. It can help you aim, it can help you hit your abilities better, know exactly where everything's going. So I would definitely recommend messing around with these, turning these on, seeing if you like them. What is he doing all the way out here? I've never seen that before. Anyways, definitely mess with those and see if you like them. Alright, so that was the first tip. So first tip number 1, go to targeting, add line and arrow or ruler and high contrast or standard or whatever you want, but make sure you have those on as a beginner because that's going to help you out a lot. I'm going to go back to the lobby real quick, and now we're going to talk about the next little tip that I have to help you as a beginner. The next tip is to go to gods, and this is where it shows you all the gods that you have currently and all those that are on free rotation for this week. And all the ones you don't have. All the ones you don't have will be in this gray kind of color. The ones that you have or they're on free rotation will have color to them. This is what's useful. When you're here on the God section, you can click on a god you want to look at. So let's say Neath again, for instance. You can click on a god and brings you to this page. But what's super useful about this page is abilities. You can click abilities and you can read what the god's ability does in detail. Like this says, Neath fires a shot that passes through everything. Each enemy hit takes damage and is rooted. If a spirit arrow hits a broken weave, which you have to read her passive to understand what a broken weave is. If a spirit arrow hits a broken weave, the weave detonates, dealing additional 100% of the damage and applying a root to all enemies in the area. Alright, so you can read what the ability does. So originally you might not know that this ability fires through walls. It passes through everything. It'll pass through walls, it'll pass through gods, it'll pass through player-made walls. It passes through everything. So that entire line that you saw in game, this arrow, when you fire it, will go that entire line until that line ends and the ability disappears. But it'll pass through anything, which is very useful to know. So this page helps out a lot because you can read about the gods, you can learn what the abilities do, you can learn how much damage their abilities do at level 1, like the level 1 of Spirit Arrow does 90 damage and it roots for 1.2 seconds. Level 2 does 155 damage and roots for 1.4 seconds. So on, all the way up to level 5 here. You can read all this here, how much the abilities cost from level 1 to level 5, what the cooldown is for the ability. This can be very useful for beginners. So I would recommend checking out this page, checking out what a god does before you play with them. That way you can kind of have an understanding of what the abilities do. That way you don't just mess around with them in-game. You can actually read up on them beforehand, which will help you once you get in-game, because then you'll be able to know what the abilities do so that you're not just spamming random abilities at random times. The second thing that's really useful about this god section when you click on a specific god like Neath is the god builder. God Builder is super useful because you can customize or kind of mess around with items. So you can like add items to her base stats, right? Kind of just picking random items right now. You can add them here, and then these are Neath's base stats, level 1 stats. She does, her basic attack damage is 37 at level 1, right? You can adjust this from level 1 all the way up to level 20. So her base attack damage at level 20 is 81. But then you can click this little box right here. and add these items, and it calculates how much damage you'll be doing with these items. So if you have, what is this, Warrior Tabby, Deathbringer, Malice, and Bloodforge, and you are level 20, your basic attacks will be hitting for 296 damage. So this is a very useful place to go to mess around with builds and see how much damage you can do, how much movement, attack speed you'll have, how much life steal you can get with different items. You can also click on the items, go to them and click on them, and read what the items do, what their passives do, and how much damage or lifesteal or whatever they give you, plus whatever their passive is. So this is a very useful section. I would definitely recommend playing around with this a little bit. Also, what's cool about this is if you have a build that you like to build that you think is good, you can add all the items here. Let's add 2 more. Let's add Transcendence, and let's add, I don't know, Rage. Right? So you can add these here, and then if you hit save, like that, and then you exit out, you can come back here and they'll still be there for 1, but 2, once you're in game, when you open up your item shop, the first thing you'll see will be what you built right here. So you can add starter items, you know, like here, like if you get pots, like mana pot and health pot, you can add those. And then when you hit save, once you get in game, these will pop up, so it'll be easier to get to these items. That way you take less time in Fountain, which means you can get more farm from the map. So this is a very useful thing for beginners. I would recommend just messing around with this. If you know, you don't have to mess around with this. I think when you first start off the game, it's on auto build. You have this thing where the game buys the items for you. You can turn that off in game, and then do this to make your own kits, I guess you could say. But when you first start off the game, it's going to be on auto buy items, but you don't have to. Oops, you don't have to keep it that way. I would definitely recommend not keeping it that way and messing around with builds and seeing what's good. So, anyways, the next thing I want to talk about is, and the last one for the Smite homepage, the last little tip I have for here, is wisdom. In the wisdom section, it has all of these great videos, beginner videos, basic instructions, items and skills, classes and roles, abilities, things like this. This is a great resource for learning more about the game. Learning the basics, get a little bit more advanced in like how to jungle and what lanes and communication is all about. You can read about the maps, or not read, oops. Kind of learn about the maps using these videos. This is especially good. God Guides. These are made by Hi-Rez, the game developers themselves. These are made by the game developers, and it gives you an in-depth kind of look, or a more in-depth kind of look at what God's abilities do and how best to combo them, and what you might want to build, and what role God's might be in. Like for Ho Yi, if you watch the Ho Yi video, it'll tell you that Ho Yi is a ADC or slash hunter, which means he's gonna be focusing on auto attacks and things and stuff. It tells you about his abilities. This is a very useful spot to learn about the gods in the game. So I definitely recommend checking out these videos. As I said, they're made by Hi-Rez, the people who created the game and created these characters. So this is a very good resource. I definitely recommend checking these out. I have actually one last tip that is probably the biggest and most important thing for getting better at this game, and that is to play the game. Dun dun dun, it's obvious, right? Play the game. The more you play the game, the better you're going to get at it. If you don't play this game, you'll never get better. If you don't talk to people in the game, if you don't get advice and seek help, you're not going to get better at this game. You have to play this game to get better at it. Just remember to have fun during playing the game. That's what all games are about, is just having fun. If you're getting frustrated, take a break from the game. You know, there are some pretty toxic people in Smite, as any game, really. So, you know, if people are getting on your nerves, or if you're just not having fun, take a break. You know, play something else, come back later. But definitely play this game, because the more you play it, the better you're going to get, the more fun you're going to have. When I first started playing this game, I didn't have a ton of fun. Like, I had fun. I thought it was a fun little game, but I was kind of frustrated because I kept dying so much in game. Um, I was just getting tired of losing so much and dying a lot. Um, so I kind of just took a break. But the more I played, the better I got, to the point where I was the one getting kills and I was the one doing good. Um, so the more you play this game, the better you're gonna get, and the more fun hopefully you're gonna have. So this was my first beginners, I guess you could say, video. I'm going to be making more videos. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into the gameplay itself, into the specific roles to teach you guys what the different roles mean, and I'll go into some builds, some basic builds for gods and for the different roles, and to try to explain the game more. This was a very, very beginner guide, so people who just started playing the game. If you've been playing the game for a little bit, you probably know all this already. But as I said, this was just for beginners. This game is a lot of fun, so I just wanted to make this video to help people learn more about the game and hopefully so that you can get better and have even more fun at the game. Um, so I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Death Wampa. I will be making more of these. Leave a like, hit subscribe. It helps out a lot, more than you know. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions on anything specific you would like me to do, or if you have any comments on how I can make this video better or simpler, explain things easier. Feel free to let me know. I definitely want to know. Your guys' opinion is important to me. Um, but yeah, I hope you enjoy this little beginner's guide and kind of tips and tricks video. And I hope y'all have a great rest of the time. Play some Smite, and I will talk to y'all in a later video.